Hello and welcome to the Promised Land Pursuit. My name is Mario Shadina and I am here with my wife, Emily Shadina.
Hi, thank you for joining us today. Today, we're diving into one of the oldest mysteries humanity has ever asked. Before civilizations were built, before history was recorded, and before anyone could explain the world around them, there was a question waiting to be answered. How did it all begin? For thousands of years, people have looked at the universe, explored the complexity of life, and searched for answers about our place in it all. But the deeper we look, the more questions seem to emerge. In this episode, we'll explore the mysteries hidden in the world around us, from the vastness of the universe to the smallest details of life itself, and examine the clues that have led many to believe there is more to our existence than meets the eye.
A question that has sparked debates in classrooms, churches, universities, homes, and coffee shops for generations. Where did we come from? Did life arise through a long process of evolution? Or was there a creator behind it all? Now, before we dive in, I want to make something clear. This episode is not about mocking anyone. It's not about attacking anyone. Instead, we're going to do what we've done in our other episodes. We're going to investigate. We're going to tell some stories, we're going to ask some questions, and at the end, I'll tell you where I personally land. But first, let me tell you a story. The year was 1847. The Atlantic Ocean stretched endlessly in every direction. The ship rocked gently beneath the feet of a young sailor. His name? Hanson Gregory. He was only 16 years old. Life at sea wasn't glamorous. The days were long, the work was hard, and the food was often disappointing. One particular food bothered him more than anything else. Every morning, the sailors were served fried cakes. The outside was usually cooked, golden brown, crispy, but the center was often raw, greasy, and undercooked. No matter how they prepared them, the middle never seemed quite right. Most people accepted it. But Hanson couldn't stop thinking about it. Day after day, the problem bothered him, until one day he tried something unusual. Instead of adding something to the pastry, he removed something. He punched a hole right through the center. Now the hot oil could reach every part of the dough. The pastry cooked evenly, and the problem was solved. And according to Hanson Gregory's later account, that simple idea became one of the most recognizable foods in the world. The donut hole. Now, historians debate exactly how much of that story actually happened as told, but here's why I bring it up. Sometimes understanding where something came from changes the way we see it, and today we're asking a much bigger question. Not where donuts came from, not where inventions came from, but where life itself came from. Every culture has asked this question. Ancient kings asked it, farmers asked it, philosophers asked it, scientists asked it, children ask it. Where did all of this come from? The stars above us, the oceans around us, the trees, the animals, the human mind. Where did life begin? And for most of human history, the answer was simple: a creator. Then, in the 19th century, a young man boarded a ship. His observations would change the conversation forever. The year was 1831, England. A 22-year-old man was searching for direction in life. He had tried medicine, it didn't fit. He studied for the ministry, but his real passion wasn't theology, it was nature. Collecting insects, studying animals, exploring the outdoors. But then the opportunity appeared. A British survey ship was preparing to sail around the world. The voyage was expected to last 2 years, but it took nearly 5 years. The young man was invited to join, but his father initially opposed the idea. He thought that it was a waste of time. Others convinced him otherwise. And so he boarded the ship called the HMS Beagle. The journey would take him across oceans and continents, into jungles, across mountains, through islands very few people have ever seen. and before it was over, he would begin developing one of the most influential scientific theories in history. The young man's name was Charles Darwin. As the Beagle traveled, Darwin filled notebooks with observations. In South America, he discovered fossils, massive creatures buried beneath the earth. Some resembled living animals, others seemed completely gone. That raised the question, why did extinct animals appear similar to living ones? Then came one of the most famous stops of the voyage, the Galapagos Islands, a remote chain of volcanic islands in the Pacific Ocean. There, Darwin noticed something fascinating. The islands contained birds called finches. At first glance, they seemed similar, but there were differences. Some had thick beaks, others had narrow beaks. Some were suited for seeds, others for insects. Why would closely related birds have different tools for survival? The giant tortoise also fascinated him. People living there claimed they could tell which island a tortoise came from simply by looking at its shell. Again, Darwin saw patterns, differences, adaptations, questions, and those questions would eventually contribute to a theory that proposed life changes over a long period of time. Not instantly, not dramatically overnight, but gradually, generation after generation. Now, before we go further, it's important to understand what evolution actually teaches. Many people argue against evolution without fully understanding it. Evolution proposes that living things change over time. Individuals with traits that help them survive are more likely to reproduce. Those traits become more common in future generations. This process is called natural selection. Over a vast amount of time, these small changes can accumulate, leading to a significant difference between organisms. Now, whether someone agrees with that explanation or not, it's important to understand it fairly. But there is something many people misunderstand. Evolution attempts to explain how life changes. It does not explain how life began. And that's where another set of questions enters the discussion. Because regardless of where someone stands on evolution, there are still fascinating questions. Questions scientists continue investigating. For example, how did the first living cell arise? Life is incredibly complex. Even the simplest cell contains astonishing amounts of information. Then there's DNA, the instruction manual of life. Inside nearly every cell in your body exists information more detailed than many libraries. Where did that information originate? Then there's the universe itself. Scientists have discovered that many physical constants appear incredibly precise. Gravity, electromagnetism, the forces that govern matter. Had some of these values been slightly different, life as we know it may not exist. Then there are questions of consciousness. Why are humans self-aware? Why do we think about meaning? Why do we care about right and wrong? Why do we write poetry, create music, love, dream, hope? These questions don't automatically prove creation, but they remain part of the conversation. And they've kept the origins debate alive for generations. Long before Darwin, long before microscopes, long before genetics, long before anyone even knew what DNA was, an ancient text offered a different explanation. Not chance, not accident, not an unguided process, but intention, design, purpose. The opening words are among the most famous words ever written. In the beginning. Yes, the book of Genesis. According to Genesis, the universe did not emerge from chaos. It was spoken into existence by a creator. Light, land, sea, stars, animals, humanity, all created intentionally. And whether a person accepts that explanation or not, there's no denying its influence. For thousands of years, these words have shaped civilizations, culture, nations, and billions of lives.
Darwin's observations changed the way many people thought about life. The fossils he discovered, the animals he studied, the patterns he noticed in nature, they all raised questions about how living things change over time. But there was a question even older than the question of life. Because before there was life, there had to be a world for life to exist in. Before there were animals, before there were plants, before humanity ever looked toward the sky and wondered, there was a universe. And that brings us to another mystery. Where did everything begin? For much of history, many people believed the universe itself had always existed. The stars had always been there. Space had always been there. The universe had no beginning. But then scientists began uncovering something unexpected. The universe appeared to be expanding. Galaxies were moving away from one another, suggesting that the universe itself had a starting point. This discovery eventually led to what became known as the Big Bang Theory. The idea that the universe began from an extremely hot, dense state and has been expanding ever since. Now, the Big Bang Theory is often presented as an explanation for the beginning of the universe, but it also raises some of the biggest questions humanity has ever asked. If the universe had a beginning, what caused that beginning? Where did matter come from? Where did energy come from? Why does the universe follow consistent laws? And why does this universe exist in a way that allows life to exist? For many Christians, these questions point back to the very first words of Scripture. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Genesis begins with a simple statement. Before there was a universe, there was a creator. Before there was light, there was the one who spoke it into existence. And while people continue to debate the details of how the universe began, the biblical account has offered an answer for thousands of years. Creation was not an accident. It was intentional. It was designed. But the mystery doesn't end with the universe, because once there is a world, another question appears. Where did life come from? And hidden inside every living thing is another clue waiting to be explored. It's smaller than a grain of sand, smaller than a speck of dust, invisible to the naked eye. Yet inside nearly every cell of your body is enough information to fill entire libraries. Scientists call it DNA. Most people know DNA determines eye color, hair color, and countless other traits. But DNA is far more than a collection of biological instructions. It is information, a code, a language written using only 4 chemical letters. And somehow that language contains the instructions necessary to build and maintain a living human being. Think about that for a moment. Inside your body right now are trillions of cells, each one carrying a copy of the same instructions. Instructions for growth, instructions for repair, instructions for life itself. The mystery isn't that DNA exists. The mystery is what information actually is. Imagine walking through a forest and discovering a book lying on the ground. Its pages are filled with words, sentences, paragraphs, entire chapters. No one would assume the wind wrote it. No one would credit erosion. The reason is simple. Information doesn't typically arise from random processes. Books come from authors. Messages come from messengers. Code comes from coders. Which raises an intriguing question. If every living thing contains a coded set of instructions, where did the code come from? For those who believe in creation, DNA is more than biology. It is a signature, a clue, a reminder that life may be pointing beyond itself to something or someone greater. And if that's true, then DNA isn't the only mystery waiting to be explored. Because the deeper we examine the universe, the more it begins to look as though everything has been carefully arranged.
Here's why this debate is so important. Because ultimately, it's not about fossils, or finches, or biology textbooks, or even theories about how the universe began. It's about identity. If life is purely accidental, what does it mean about us? If we are merely the product of random events, what gives life meaning? What gives human beings value? But if there is a creator, everything changes. Purpose changes, identity changes, meaning changes. Suddenly, our existence isn't random. It becomes intentional. And perhaps that's why the origins debate refuses to disappear. Because beneath all the science and all the arguments, beneath the discussions about evolution, DNA, and even the origins of the universe itself, lies a deeply personal question. Am I here by accident, or am I here on purpose? For more than a century, people have debated the question of origins. Scientists, theologians, philosophers, teachers, students, parents. And despite all of our advances in technology, we're still asking the same question humanity has always asked. Where did we come from? Tonight, we trace the story of the origins from the vastness of the universe to the information hidden inside a single cell. We explored theories about the beginning of everything. We followed a young naturalist around the world. And after looking at both sides, I think it's only fair to tell you where we personally stand. We believe the opening words of Genesis are true. We believe that there's a creator behind creation. We believe that life was designed with purpose. Not because we're afraid of science or because we're afraid to ask the hard questions, but because when we look at the complexity of life, the information stored in our DNA, the remarkable order of the universe, and the testimony of Scripture, we find creation to be the most convincing explanation. Now, I know not everyone listening is going to agree with that, and that's okay. Our goal was not to force anyone into a conclusion. Our goal was to encourage you to think, to investigate, to ask questions. Because if the universe has a creator, then that changes everything. It means that your life has meaning, purpose, value. It means that you're not an accident. You're not a random collection of atoms drifting through a meaningless universe. You were created intentionally. Because deep down, every person wants to know not only where they came from, but why they are here. And if Genesis is true, then the answer to that question is far more beautiful than most people ever imagined. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep asking questions. And if you're enjoying these podcasts, jump into the comment section below and say hi. We like it when people say hi. And as always, have a wonderful life.